You might be familiar with the work of two Stanford professors, Burnett and Evans, and their work on designing your life. And the concept they share in their work applies just as much to public speaking as it does to life decisions. When people believe there is only one right answer, they freeze. Imagine you're at an event. Maybe you're presenting, maybe you're leading the meeting, maybe it's a networking event, but somebody tosses a question your way. Suddenly, your brain is searching for the right answer, the exact thing you need to say at this moment in time that is absolutely perfect. When you start hunting for the perfect answer, your mind freezes. What I want you to think about is there's not necessarily one right answer, one correct and accurate response. There's probably a lot of them. But when we fall into this trap of being the expert, we can get lost. I had a client recently that shared this challenge with me. She is definitely an expert in her field, yet when she stands to present her expertise, she's got so much in here, it gets all jumbled and she gets lost in her slide deck and she goes off on tangent after tangent because she's searching for the right answer when there isn't necessarily one. She felt like she had to prove her value every time she stood before a group. And so every invitation turned into a mini lecture. And that's not what people want. They want your authenticity and they want your sincerity. And more than that, they want your brevity. We are inundated today with information. And so if you can share one idea, one tip, one small segment of your knowledge, that is way more powerful than trying to load everything all at once. So think about the idea that Burnett and Evans call Odyssey thinking. In their world, they encourage people to stop believing that there's only one correct path. Instead, they ask you to imagine three completely different versions of yourself in the next 5 years. Wow, I thought that was so interesting. So, what if we took that same concept and applied it to creating a presentation or creating our intro at a networking event? The age old question, so what do you do? That answer? Instead of getting stuck in what I call, or they call, functional fixedness, which is that internal freeze that happens when we think there's only one right answer. Look and see what else is possible. So, again, encourage people to really narrow their focus when they're talking to others, whether it's in a presentation, leading a meeting, or at a networking event. The power of a laser beam versus a light bulb. But then, what are some options? So, what are those? What are three laser beams you could explore? What are three key ideas? And then you get to pick one because this applies just as much to public speaking as it does to your life. When we have major decisions to make, we can get stuck. So when we're presenting in a major way, an important client, you want to meet somebody that's influential at a networking event, and we believe there's only one right thing, that can keep us stuck. But when we approach it as, what's the most helpful comment I could make right now? Or what would be one idea that would be important for me to share? It lowers the pressure because you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You just have to be the most useful or the most helpful. And quite frankly, people gravitate towards others who are useful and helpful, who are authentic. When you think about what's being useful, what's being helpful, it keeps you in the moment. It's thinking about it this way. Performance is me focused, me, me, me. When I'm helpful, I'm focused on the other person. So when you focus on being helpful to somebody on the other side of the room or the person you're shaking hands with, you end up in a different conversation. It invites interaction. Perfection and performance, those are closed doors. It doesn't leave any room for follow up or nuance. But with a helpful suggestion, it's an invitation for a conversation. And speaking of suggestions, I would encourage you to frame things in the form of a question to get the conversation going instead of trying to score, but playing along, sharing the ball, if you will, if you want to use a sports analogy. So when you make this shift, something can happen to your physical presence. When we're stuck in the one right answer mode, our bodies show it. We lean back, our eyes dart around, our breath gets shallow. But when we show up in a way that we want to be helpful, we want to lean in, we want to listen, we come at things from a place of curiosity and wonder, your body shows up differently too, and people can sense that. One of the biggest myths I see in public speaking is it's not about delivering a message in a flawless way. Heck, if you've seen my videos, you know every single one has some kind of boo-boo. I don't go through and edit them out. I'm trying to be real with you. I'm trying to pretend like we're in person, not on a recording, so that you can get the feel of that. Here's my point. If you want to deliver a perfect message, you could just send an email. But people come to meetings and come to events and come to hear speakers because they want the person, not just the data. So real confidence doesn't come from rehearsing, although I'll bet that's important, every possible response until you're a robot. Nobody wants to, well, we have enough robots today, right? It comes from knowing that you can handle whatever comes your way. It's trust in yourself and your ability to navigate the conversation. Lean in, listen, and be engaged with the people in the room. And when I say engaged, that means you're there in that present moment. You're not thinking about what's going to happen next, what you're going to have for lunch today, or the meeting tomorrow. You're there, you're present, you're curious about that person across the table from you, or you're curious about the members of your audience or the team you're leading. When someone tosses a question your way, begin to think about what's the most useful idea I could share at this moment, not the one right answer. When you change your perspective to there's not one, there's many, and get curious about this idea of what could that look like, I believe you and your audience both are far better served. So give it a try, and I'd love to know what happens. Come back and make a comment if you are so inclined. And of course, if you know somebody who could use this message, feel free to share the video. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel so you get updates every week.